This module is to teach you how to use a risk analysis. The risk analysis tools are for anyone to use. It's a set of guidelines. We're changing them all the time, so when you use it one time it might look a little different than the next. But essentially what's going to happen is that you're going to say, for instance, I work till midnight. I'm a maintenance guy. I work till midnight, and now I have to go back in and do an inspection on the airplane at 8 o'clock in the morning. That seems a little risky to me, so I'm going to do a risk analysis. Instead of sleeping like I should, I get home at 1 in the morning, I'm going to do this risk analysis and see how risky things are going to be or how risky I can make them. So here we are at the PRISM website, and I'm logging back in again. I think I'm logging back in again. There it is, I'm logging back in again. And for a risk analysis, back again on the quick links, I'm logged in as my pilot. And the flight risk analysis is there, ground risk analysis is here. The pilots are not using flight risk analysis. No one else would have any reason to use it, I don't think. For flight risk analysis, we are using the AirInc system, and all the pilots know that because we have to submit a flight risk analysis for every flight. So we're not going to cover flight risk analysis since it's not something we use here on the PRISM website. The ground risk analysis, however, is something that we use, so we're going to take a look at that. So I've got a problem, got it at midnight, going back out in the morning, I'm worried about it. I'm going to submit a ground risk analysis. There's two templates. If you take a look, one of them is simply the TSMA maintenance risk analysis. Then there's another one for a technical services risk analysis. For instance, if you're a little concerned about people coming in to clean the airplane or something, you can analyze that risk also. As we go through this, you'll see what I mean by saying that this is a tool. We've selected the maintenance risk analysis, and we're going to push on that little green button. And here we are. We're going to go submitted by me, David Musin. Shift doesn't matter, but you can put in for a shift if you want, because that's what this would be. And here you want to put in the problem. Paste. Got off work at midnight last night. After a 12-hour shift, I'm reporting for duty tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to perform an inspection on a G4. It seems a little bit risky. So here we go. And you notice right off that there is a maintenance risk and assessment that assigns points. Pilots will be familiar with this. Maintenance people probably haven't seen this before. But as you go down the line and reach each one of these things, it's going to assign a positive or a negative risk factor to that activity. And you'll notice that if you're a technician, you're filling this out, there's a risk factor associated with it of 1. If you're not a technician, you get a risk factor of 3. Type of activity, if it's aircraft maintenance activity, which it is, that's got a 5. It's hangar maintenance, lack of time available, well, that's not a factor. Concurrent activities would be if you were doing an inspection maybe while someone was cleaning the airplane, and that's not happening. The weather forecast in this situation probably wouldn't have much to do with it. If you were doing outside maintenance, it might. So we're going to skip on down the line here. Scheduled duty time, well, that isn't it. This is going to be a long day, so I'm going to say that I'm expecting to work 12 hours, all right? So that's 6. Work period 2300 to 0600 local time. Well, I didn't get off work last night till midnight, so I'm going to check that one too. Off-duty rest was definitely less than 8 hours, so I'm going to check that. As we get on the line, you'll see what we're going to do. I'm working alone, all right? We have an emergency notification procedure. If we did, that would take 4 points off this, but I don't think we do. We're not contract maintenance. We don't have any personal health issues. There's a lot of questions in here, so I'm going to skip through it as fast as I can. There's a first aid kit available. We get 2 points back for that. There's an AED available, 2 points for that. Protective clothing is available. Lockout procedure is not needed or used. We're not doing any welding. We're using compressed gas. We could be using hoist equipment. We're not using trucks. We're entering confined spaces because we're a mechanic. Flammable combustible materials, we're talking MEK, that's also hazardous. We're not in a high noise area. As you can see, these are all logically, I didn't make these up, somebody else made them up, but technical data reviewed. Well, I'm a mechanic. Of course, I've reviewed my technical data. I'm not servicing the fuel, but I would be servicing the oxygen. Maybe I'm going to pressurize the tires, or as we say as laymen, we're going to put air in the tires. Pre-flight, post-flight, no, but this is a scheduled inspection. Opening panels, yes, we go right down the line. They've covered everything: electrical system, fuel system, engines and APU, hydraulics and pneumatics. So we're getting really risky. We're going to have to use platforms again because we're mechanics. There's no way we're going to get around without using a ladder. But in this situation, we don't have a safety harness. Work inspected by peer, absolutely. Jerry looks at everything we do. Aircraft towing, no. Wing walking, no. Jacking, in this situation, we're not going to do it. Trip support, passengers, no. Baggage handling, not this time. Ramp area, we're not in the ramp area. Movement under its own power, no. Vehicle activity, passenger activity. The hangar is clean. I don't understand why there's a 1 associated with that. I would do a -1, but I don't know. There's 1 aircraft. This is 1 aircraft in the hangar, 2 aircraft in the hangar. We've got more than 2 aircraft in the hangar, so we're going to do that. There's other obstructions in the hangar because it's a hangar. There's fall and slip hazards because it's a hangar. The ground surface equipment is inspected on a regular basis, 2 points back. We're going to use the ground power unit. There's cords on that. We're not going to use a hydraulic unit. We're trained in the use of power tools. Power tools do have guards, and we do use them. We get 2 points back. Power tools used outside the shop, I don't know what that is. Maybe you're working on your car or something. Other considerations, and you go right down the line here, and you see we've got a risk factor of 84. All right, and if you go all the way up to the top here, well, I guess it's not at the top there, but there's a caution sign there. Essentially what happens if your risk factor is more than 80, you're going to have to talk to Jerry and get some advice on how to mitigate this risk. And now what I'm going to do is go up here and add a couple more of these minus things and try to get it down below 80. Let's say it's company aircraft only. So that's going to give us 2 points. And we're using a safety harness, so that's going to give us 4 points. So Jerry might say, well, we'll get the other airplanes out of there, and we're going to give you a safety harness. What do you think of that? So now it's not 1 in the morning, it's 2 in the morning by the time you got all this, and you have to be back to work at 8. But you can go back to work secure in the knowledge that you've got a factor of 78, and that's considered relatively safe. And you see down here we've got a score greater than 80, director of maintenance and the director of flight ops. That should say or, but you get the idea here. More than 120 is a no-go. If it's more than 120, you shouldn't be doing it. And now I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to cancel it. But if you save it, then it goes into the system, and when we analyze all our risks at the end of the year, all of that stuff comes up. So here we go. Cancel changes. You would submit it. I'm going to say yes, I do want to cancel. So you see you can always get out of this if you get halfway through it and decide you're going to go to bed instead. And then of course we don't forget to log out. And we're done.